The great hall of the Frostmore pack had never been so silent. Cold air moved through the tall stone windows, carrying the scent of pine and smoke from the fires burning along the walls. Hundreds of people stood shoulder to shoulder, their eyes fixed on the woman standing at the center of the room. She was small compared to the wolves around her, but she did not look small. She looked like she was carved from stone, unwilling to move even an inch. Elena Voss stood with her spine straight and her chin lifted, refusing to kneel before the raised platform, where Alpha King Damian Ashgrove sat wrapped in dark furs. His presence filled the entire hall, heavy and commanding, the kind of presence that made grown men lower their eyes without being told. Yet the woman before him did not lower hers. "On your knees," Damian said again. His voice was low, but it carried across the hall like the growl of something much larger than a man. "Every soul in this hall bows to me." "I am not one of your wolves," Elena answered, her voice steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. "You have no claim over me." A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. No one spoke to the Alpha King that way. Not the betas standing near the walls, not the elders seated on the stone benches, not even the members of his own council. Every one of them had learned, long ago, that defiance in this hall came with consequences. Damian's eyes, gold and sharp as a blade, narrowed on her. He did not know this woman. He did not know her name, her face, or the reason fate had dragged her onto his land 3 days earlier, bleeding from a car accident on the mountain road bordering his territory. He only knew one thing for certain. The moment she had been carried through the gates, something inside him had gone strangely still. Then, without warning, that same stillness had turned into a sharp and unbearable alertness, as though some ancient part of him recognized something he thought he had lost forever. What Damian did not know was that 6 years ago, in a city far away from Frostmore, Elena had loved a wolf who never told her what he truly was. A man who vanished one autumn night without a single word, leaving behind only a photograph, a silver ring, and, 9 months later, a son she raised completely alone. Their son. The boy in question chose that exact moment to break free from the nurse assigned to watch him. He pushed through the crowd, small and fearless, his dark curls bouncing with every step, and ran straight toward the platform where his mother stood. "Mama!" The single word cracked through the silence of the hall like a clap of thunder. Elena's heart stopped in her chest. She had not wanted him here. She had begged the guards, more than once, to keep Eli safely in the guest quarters, far away from the king who radiated danger from every line of his body. But 4-year-old children do not understand danger the way adults do. They understand only that their mother is standing alone in a room full of strangers, and to a small boy, that was simply unacceptable. He ran past 2 startled guards before either of them could react, and threw his arms tightly around his mother's legs. Damian rose slowly from his throne. He rose the way a man rises when the ground beneath him has suddenly shifted, and he is not yet certain it will hold his weight. His gaze dropped from Elena's face to the small boy clinging to her, and something in his chest tightened painfully. He noticed the boy's eyes first, storm gray, so much like his own that it made his breath catch. Then he noticed something else, a faint and unmistakable shimmer that only another wolf could sense, a scent that had been quietly nagging at him for 3 days without a name he could place. "Say that again," Damian said quietly. For the first time since Elena had arrived at Frostmore, his voice carried no command at all, only disbelief. Eli, completely unaware of the weight now pressing down on the entire hall, looked up first at his mother, then at the tall man standing on the platform, who was staring at him as though he had seen a ghost. "Mama," he repeated patiently, the way children repeat things for slow adults who do not seem to understand the first time. "Why is everyone bowing to you?" "They are not bowing to me, sweetheart," Elena murmured, resting a protective hand on her son's head, her eyes never once leaving Damian's face. But that was no longer entirely true, because as the pack watched, as the elders exchanged glances heavy with meaning, and as whispers began rippling through the crowd, something had clearly shifted, and shifted permanently. The whispers grew louder with every passing second. "The king's son, the king has a son. Look at his eyes, they are exactly the same. Alpha King Damian Ashgrove, a man who bowed to no one, and repeated an order only once, descended the steps of his own platform, and crossed the stone floor toward a human woman he had ordered to kneel only minutes earlier. He stopped directly in front of her. Up close, Elena could see it clearly, the same shock that had frozen her on the night he disappeared, written now across his face in complete reverse. "Elena," he said, her name sitting strangely in his mouth, as though it had been waiting there, unused, for 6 long years. "You knew my name," she said, her voice low and sharp, "and you still let your guards drag me into this hall like a criminal." "I did not know it was you." His eyes dropped again to the boy still gripping tightly to her legs, and something raw moved across his face, a mixture of grief, wonder, and something dangerously close to hope. "I did not know about him." "You did not stay long enough to know anything, Damien." The use of his name, without any title, without any deference at all, sent another wave of murmurs through the watching crowd. But Damien did not correct her. Instead, he knelt right there on the floor of his own great hall, in front of every wolf sworn to follow him, and brought himself down to eye level with the boy who shared his blood. "Hello," he said softly, his voice gentler than anyone in that hall had ever heard it. "What is your name?" "Eli," the boy answered, curious now instead of afraid, studying the king's face the way children often study things they do not yet know they should fear. "Are you a wolf too?" "I am." Damien's throat tightened around the words. "So are you, Eli. Did you know that about yourself?" Eli shook his head, delighted rather than troubled by this discovery, already forgetting to feel shy in front of so many strangers. Behind them, Elena watched the King of Frostmoor, a man who had built his entire reputation on iron control and unshaken command, kneel before a 4-year-old child with an expression she had never once seen him wear during the entire year they had spent together long ago. It was not the expression of power. It was not the expression of authority. It was fear. The particular kind of fear that only comes to a man who suddenly understands exactly how much he stands to lose, and how close he had come to never even knowing it existed. He looked up at her, still kneeling on the cold stone floor, and for just a moment, the king disappeared entirely, and there was only the man she had once loved and eventually lost. "Stay," he said quietly, "not because I command it. Because I am asking you. Let me be worth staying for this time." Elena looked around the hall, filled with hundreds of wolves who, only minutes earlier, had watched her refuse to bow to their king, and who now watched their king kneeling before her instead. The silence in the room felt different now. It no longer carried tension. It carried something closer to wonder. She did not kneel either. But she did not walk away. "Prove it," she said firmly. "Every single day, not just today." Something like relief broke across Damien's face, fierce and completely unguarded, the kind of relief a man only shows when he believes he has just been given a second chance he does not deserve but desperately wants. He rose to his feet, and this time, when he turned to face his pack, he did not return to his throne. He kept Eli's small hand held gently in his own, and he stood beside Elena instead of above her. "This is Elena," he told the hall, his voice steady now, sure in a way it had not been in years. "And this is my son. Whoever cannot bow to them has no place bowing to me." Not a single wolf remained standing in that hall. Even the oldest elders sank slowly to their knees, not for the king alone this time, but for the woman who had refused to kneel, and for the boy whose one simple word had brought an alpha to the floor before her. In the days that followed, Frostmoor changed in ways no one could have predicted. Elena did not move into the king's private chambers, though many in the pack expected her to. Instead, she was given quarters of her own, close enough for Eli to run freely between his mother's rooms and his father's study, but separate enough that no one could claim she had simply surrendered to a crown she never asked for. Damien kept his word. Every morning, before council meetings and before border patrols, he found time to sit with Eli, teaching him small things, how to greet the pack elders, how to listen for the wind changing direction, how to laugh without fear. Every evening, he sought out Elena, not as a king demanding her presence, but as a man asking for a few minutes of her time. Sometimes she gave it, sometimes she did not. He never pushed. The pack watched all of this closely, the way packs always watch their leaders. Some elders whispered that a human woman had no place shaping the future of Frostmoor. Others pointed out that Eli's blood ran true, that his wolf had already begun to stir beneath his human skin, and that no pack in living memory had produced an heir so clearly marked by fate. Slowly, the whispers of doubt began to fade, replaced by something closer to quiet respect. One evening, nearly a month after Elena's arrival, Damien found her standing alone on the stone balcony overlooking the training grounds, watching Eli chase fireflies with two other pack children below. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of autumn leaves. "You could have left by now," Damien said, coming to stand beside her, careful to keep some distance between them. "I would not have stopped you." "I know," Elena said. "That is exactly why I stayed." He looked at her, surprised. "For 6 years, I thought you left because you did not want us," she continued, her voice quiet but steady. "I built a whole life believing that. I told myself I did not need an explanation, because explanations would not raise my son or pay for his shoes. But watching you these past weeks, watching you show up every single day without being asked twice, that told me something words never could." "I should have told you what I was, from the very beginning," Damien said. "I should have trusted you with the truth." "Yes, you should have," Elena agreed simply. "But you cannot undo 6 years. All you can do is choose differently now." "Then I choose you," he said. "I choose both of you, every day, for as long as you will let me." Elena did not answer right away. Instead, she looked down at her son, laughing in the torchlight below, surrounded by wolves who had, without her fully realizing it, already begun to treat him like family. She thought of the woman she had been 6 years ago, terrified and alone, and the woman she had become since, strong enough to walk into a hall full of wolves and refuse to bend. "One day at a time," she finally said. "That is all I can promise." "That is all I am asking for," Damien answered. Below them, Eli looked up, spotted his parents standing together on the balcony, and waved both arms wildly, shouting for them to come down and join the game. Neither of them moved right away. They simply stood there for a moment longer, side by side, watching the boy who had, without even understanding what he had done, brought an entire kingdom to its knees with a single word. Then, together, they went down to join him. By winter, the pack no longer whispered about the human woman who once refused to bow. Instead, they spoke of Elena the way they spoke of Damien, with quiet respect earned rather than given. And when the first snow fell over Frostmoor, blanketing the training grounds in white, Eli ran through it laughing, his mother on one side and his father on the other, no longer a hidden heir, but a boy finally home, surrounded by a family that had chosen, at last, to stay.